Coming up on today's episode, I do a recap of my show in Irvine that I actually had last night. So I'm coming in fresh. And then one of my best buddies, his name is Steve, is going to come on the podcast. And he was actually at the show last night, and I've known him since I've known him for over probably a decade, and he's seen the beginnings of my stand-up career, and now he's seen where I'm at now. So I'm going to have him on. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Also, stories from college, because we went to college together in Chicago, so maybe some fun college stories too. Who's to say? I don't know what's going to happen, but Steve's my guy, and he's going to be on shortly. Also, I want to mention tour dates. When you're seeing this next week, I will be at the Orlando Improv. August 30th. It's a Wednesday. Super excited to do that club. And then I fly my ass back to Florida the next week. I will be in Tampa at Side Splitters September 7th through the 9th for 5 shows. Come out. It's going to be so much fun. I've heard great things about that club. And later in September 19th, I will be in Salt Lake City at Wise Guys, legendary club. Excited about it. And then the next night, I drag my ass to Phoenix to do the Tempe Improv. Big show for me. Very excited about it. And yeah, come out to those shows and also listen and watch the podcast right now. So last night I did my show in Irvine, which is like Orange County, at the Irvine Improv. And I was very excited for this show for a couple of reasons. Number one, this is one of the very few shows I can actually drive to on the tour. It doesn't even feel like a tour stop. It really just feels like I'm doing just another show. And it was just so nice to be able to drive there. No flying, no checking anything. It was just go there. But I will say, would I rather sit in 2.5 hours of traffic or 2.5 hours on a flight? Tough call. Not great either way. So much traffic. But we made it. And another reason why I really was excited to do this club is because I've opened there I want to say over 5 times I've opened there. So this is my first time coming back as a headliner, which still at times feels a little surreal because I've been at that club so many times that I know the nooks and crannies of everything. I know where everything is. But to go in as a headliner, it just feels this whole different kind of energy and feeling. I'm like, wow, this is my night. This is this gigantic club is mine for the night. It was really nice. I remember I actually did back-to-back weekends opening at the Irvine Improv. I opened for my buddy Brent Morin one weekend, 5 shows, drove back and forth every time. It was brutal, but it was so fun. And then the next weekend on like a Wednesday, I got a call from Bobby Lee, who asked me if I wanted to host for him in Irvine. So I literally did the exact same thing, back and forth, 5 shows, back-to-back weekends. I basically was working there at that point. I should have filled out a goddamn W-9 for Irvine. It was crazy. I was the mayor of Orange County for that 2 weeks. And that's a long drive. Mike, who's producing, he also made the drive last night. Not easy, but,
Fun trip.
And so it's one of these clubs where it's so big. It's like a 500-seat club. And look, I'm going to keep it real on here always. I'm not going to come on here and be like, yep, 500, no problem. Sold it out. I didn't sell it out, okay? It's a lot of people, a lot of seats. And what's interesting is that even if, I think I had about 200 people in there, which for me is awesome. That's about that's my reach goal. That's my ideal goal is about 200 tickets on on a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And that's enough that the club's happy too. Whenever I do a club, I sometimes like to gauge how they feel about the night, just because that kind of gives me info. I'm like, hey, how is this for you guys typically? That type of question. And they're like, this is great for a Thursday. And I was like, okay, that's all I need to hear, right? But what's interesting about a club like this is that, 200 people, that's a lot of people. Over 200. It was 210 or something. A lot of people. But in a club that seats 500, you're like, oh, man, slow night. That's how it feels. But you put those 200 people in a room that seats 300, that show is crazy. Fire. But the show still was awesome. From jump, the show was great. You can usually tell pretty quickly during a show. You're like, ooh, is this going to be fun or is this going to be work? And I knew pretty quickly that they were going to be on board for what I was doing. But again, it visually looks a little strange, but you have to kind of use your brain to go, oh, no, but this is also a theater. So, but it was great. I was really excited to do the show. I've been feeling really good lately, as a comic. I think I've spent the last a week or so after I got back from Cleveland and Pittsburgh, doing my usual clubs in town. The clubs I do when I'm in LA, I'll do like the Comedy and Magic Club in Hermosa Beach. I'll do Flappers in Burbank. I'll do some Don't Tell shows, Don't Tell Comedy. I'm sure you guys know who they are. They do a ton of shows every week. So those are kind of the spots I like to do. And those are where to be honest, those are where I work out like newer stuff. Because if I'm on the road, if I'm doing this big show in Irvine, I'm not about to like try shit out. I'll do like newer stuff, but it's mostly I'll do the in-town 10, 15-minute spots where I'm actually trying to work stuff out at. And what's nice is I feel comfortable there. To me, to be able to work out newer stuff, I have to feel comfortable. So with those clubs, I feel comfortable. I've earned respect that I can actually kind of try a few new things. And so that's what I've been doing over the last week or two. And I found some new jokes that I really like and I'm really excited about. And so this is the first show I got to tell a few of them in front of like my crowd. And it was really fun and really exciting because I already had the confidence that these jokes should work. And I had the excitement of, ooh, I get to try this new. Because when a new joke works, it's like, oh, there's no better feeling, I think, as a comedian when you get a new joke to work. I think that's what you're always chasing as a comic, no matter how long you've been doing it. And I think you could talk to a comic who's been doing it for 5 years and 30 years. They will still say getting a new joke working is what you do it for. That's what it is. And so I was really excited to be able to tell some of those jokes, and they worked great. One of them got one of the biggest laughs of the whole show. So I almost just did 6 minutes and got out of there because that shit felt so nice. They would have been mad, especially as the former mayor of Irvine. They'd be really upset with me for that. So it was great, man. It was what was even cooler about this night, which I thought about, is like a year ago, almost to the day, I did my first like headlining club of my career, which happened to be the Brea Improv, which is also in Orange County. And is it bigger than Irvine? Sure is. It's 570, which is crazy. But I remember I did that club a year ago, which was a huge deal for me because that was the first, not only improv that I headlined, but first comedy club, like a real comedy club that I headlined. I actually did a whole vlog about it. If you want to go back on my YouTube and watch it, I vlogged the whole thing, and it was such an exciting night for me. But again, to see now a year later where I'm at, it was really cool to kind of see. To me, you know, not only getting new jokes to work, that's very important, but it's the growth of your career is so important. I remember in Brea, I actually looked to see like what I sold and how I did. A year ago, and I already had a bit of a following. A year ago, I sold 45 tickets, and they comped, which is like free tickets, like 80 people. So there was like 120 in there, but it was like 45 paid tickets. And to then, which it was cool at the time. I was pumped about it. And then now cut to a year later, there's about, 200 plus in that room in the same market, in the same Orange County market. So to me, that's a huge takeaway, is the fact that there was like significant growth that you could see. And so now it's like next year when I do the club, we'll see how that looks. So I think that's really important to kind of take a minute to be like, oh, wow, look at where I'm at now. Because you got to just take a minute, take a breath. I always do that before I leave a club. I did this last night, is I walked back into the room when it was empty and just like kind of looked around and was like, yeah, cool, man. Look at what I'm doing. I'm headlining this amazing comedy club. What a dream scenario. It's so easy to be like in and out, the show, this, and then run out. But I just needed to take a beat, just breathe it in. You know how fucking hard I worked to get here. I need to take a beat just to enjoy it. So
it was fun as a fan and producer of this to see some of the people out there in your merch.
Oh,
saw
yeah.
Some Just Us hats in the crowd.
Yeah.
Got a couple pictures of them. So.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I made, it's funny, this Just Us merch I used to have, because that was the beginning of the tour, was the Just Us tour. And I made this merch.
The hat behind you.
Oh yeah, exactly. Thank you. I forgot he was even there. And now they're like vintage because the name of the tour is different and it's not Just Us anymore. So I can't make Just Us merch. It doesn't make sense. It wouldn't be honest. And I keep it real and honest with you guys. So I can't be like, it's just me. No one else is helping. No, I got help. Okay. It's a little different. So I got some different merch that I don't want to give away. Some of the merch I have, one of the merch I have just has my name on it. But the other merch is a reference to a joke. So I don't want to give away what the merch is, but you'll see when you come to a show. So, but thanks. I'm glad, Mike, you thought it was cool. And I thought it was cool too, man. It's fun to go out there and literally see a guy with my merch from a previous show sitting in the front. That feels really nice. So I like it. And yeah, it was overall the show again was really good. I really liked how I felt on stage. It was one of the best I think I've felt on stage in a while. Because sometimes you'll do these shows and it's like the travel and I'm tired or there's something going on or I'm in my head. But this one, I felt so sharp. I had been doing so many shows this week, so I was fresh and I was sharp and I was ready. I just loved how I felt up there, and that's huge for me. And I had a really fun. So here, I'll do a quick. So a crowd work thing is when I'm doing crowd work, it's gambling. When you talk to someone, you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know if they're going to be funny, boring, interesting, not want to talk to you, want to talk too much. You don't know what's going to happen. And so what I tend to do and what I did last night is I talked to this guy in the front. He had a very orange hat on and he had orange sunglasses as well. And I actually saw him backstage on the TV in the green room. I was like, well, definitely talking to this guy, this Captain Orange over here. Definitely going to check in with him. And sure enough, I did. And I talked to him and his girlfriend, wife. I forget who she was, but I talked to them and it was a really fun, great moment. We had it went well. I felt good about it. Fun interaction. It was great. And that was kind of the only crowd work I did. And I usually and could do more, but it was such a nice moment that was capped off by like a nice big laugh at the end that I was like, okay, no more crowd work. I did it. Had my great interaction. And the reason I say that is because if let's say I take the momentum and go, ooh, but what about you guys? And all of a sudden I like fumble an interaction or they give me some boring response and I don't have anything funny for it, then all of a sudden like my momentum's lost and I could have just quit while I was ahead, if that makes sense. So I think I could have done a little bit more time messing with the crowd, but I was like, I don't want to risk it. I had this beautiful, fun moment with these guys, and we're done. I want to get out of there. Leave it. We did it. We had fun. So that's just a little crowd work tidbit. If I have a good moment, that may be it. That may be it for crowd work. Because I think I did like 52 minutes on stage, and I thought I was going to do way more because I was doing a few more jokes that I hadn't really been doing, but a little bit less crowd work, and we're fine with that. And you'll see that clip probably at some point.
You did find a second crowd work bit in there too, though.
You're right.
It was, you got him. You shot him up.
You're right. I got one more. Yeah, it was a guy who had like a full bottle of wine, and we had a fun little time with him. And yeah, these should all be clips you should be able to watch. So yeah, I found another moment, but it's risky. You just don't know how it's gonna go. I hate killing the momentum of a show because it's so apparent when you have a weird thing, and then you're like, anyways, back to jokes. It's like a weird adjustment. So I try to lock in on one fun moment if I can. But I feel really good about it though, and I'm not. Typically, lately, I've been a little hard on myself. So if I feel good about something, it's a good sign. And then after the show, unfortunately, the meet and greet was absolute chaos. Arguably the worst meet and greet of like the tour. And this is not the club's fault. This is probably my fault because it was, first of all, it was a hard club. Okay, let me back up. After the show, I do a meet and greet for everybody. There's no like VIP. Oh, the VIP meet and greet tickets. No, who am I? It's fine. Come talk to me. It's all good. And I always try to get from the stage out to the meet and greet with the merch and myself. So I'm there as people are leaving. I'm already there. Hey, thanks for coming. Because if I go out late, people may just leave. Because people leave quick. When the show's over, they're like, all right, my check's paid. I'm out of here. I got a babysitter at home. And so if they don't see me out there, they're just walking out. And so I try to get there as soon as possible so I don't miss those people who may want to talk to me or buy merch, right? But this one, there's no like clean way to get out there. And Mike's nodding his head because he knows there's no easy exit. And I really fucked up the exit because I was like, I went through the kitchen. I was going to go around back, go towards the front. What I'm saying doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Just go with me on this. But I messed up the door was like one door was locked. I couldn't get out. I went back, went through the wrong door. And so by now, like half the crowd's gone and I'm just fumbling in the kitchen with chicken nuggets and slipping on the floor. Also, kitchen floors, slipperiest thing in the entire goddamn universe. If you've worked in a kitchen, you know what I'm talking about. Couldn't find an exit, finally got out there, and in the lobby, it's just chaos. No one is anywhere. The merch is like, it's set up, but like we're all just getting up there. It missed a ton of people. Luckily, I stood there, shook some hands, kissed some babies, took some pictures, but half that crowd left. So I was pretty bummed because I love seeing you guys after shows, and this was just, I fumbled the meet and greet, man. So if you're at the show, I'm sorry if I missed you. I couldn't get there in time, but so a little chaotic. So
I had to fight through the same crowd that you did to like kind of get there to try and take pictures of everything. But fun tidbit, I got to listen to your fans talk about how they wished they could have done the crowd work and been the guy who was the orange hat guy. So they're starting to want to be the clip guy.
I'm really glad you brought that up. I've had that a few times where people people be like, oh, I wish you talked to me, or I had one person I think it was a girl in Pittsburgh. She had like a table of friends, and I literally talked to all of the friends and not her. And she was like, I was so ready. I had all my stories ready. You talked to all my friends. They were like the least funny friends that I have. And I was like, how am I supposed to know? It was just, people do want to be part of the show, which is great. But they're doing it respectfully too. I'm not getting anybody at my shows who's like, hey, I got a funny thing. Talk to me. None of that. Everyone's been super cool. But
You're
that
nice
is
fans, Will Burkart fans. You're nice guys.
Nice people. Good people. Nice people. All sorts of ages too. Young, old, everybody. It's awesome. I love you guys. But yeah, meet and greet. I'll some adversity. Next time you see me in Irvine, the meet and greet will be crazy, dude. We'll go into a meeting room, have a meeting, you know. We'll do some hanging, maybe play some video games. Who knows what's gonna happen on the next meet and greet. But either way, Irvine was fun, man. Great time there. Happy with ticket sales. The crowd was awesome. You guys who came out were so cool. And it was a big win. I got nothing else really to say other than positive things. It was great. I had a great time, and I assume I'll be back in, whatever, a year and a half, and hopefully we can try to sell that place out. That's the plan. So again, thanks for everyone who came out. I really appreciate it. And we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back with my buddy Steve. See you in a few. We are back. I'm sitting next to a good lifelong buddy who I've known since I was 18 years old, and we met in college, and we have remained very close friends to this day. And here he is. He's Steve. Steve, welcome to the pod.
Thanks
For being here, dude.
Yeah.
So you were so before this, I talked about the Irvine Improv show.
Yep.
And you were there. And what was cool about you being there, and I talked about this in the first segment, is that you've basically seen me throughout my entire comedy career. I think you probably were so this is just for context for people. So we went to college together in Chicago at DePaul.
12 years ago.
12 years ago. Crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
12 years ago. So I started comedy my senior year of college is when I started doing like open mics and really that's why I was living in a studio in Wrigleyville, just like doing my own thing,
Yeah.
Very much what I'm kind of started to do in LA, very much kind of doing my own thing. So I started going to open mics all the time. And I think I had my first show in Chicago, I remember. And you arguably probably were there for it, if not another show you went to. So you saw the beginning of that. And now 9 years later, you saw kind of the culmination of all that work to something a lot bigger. And you've seen along the way, every 1 or 2 years, you've probably seen a show, whether it be in the Bay Area, San Diego, random places you've definitely been a part of many different shows.
I think what's interesting, and I think I've said this to you before, but every time it's been probably 2 years or a year and a half since I've seen your last show, right?
It's not more. Yeah. It's been a minute.
In Cobb's and SF.
Yeah. For sure.
Roughly a year and a half ago. And every time I've seen you, I've noticed, or I've mentioned that it's been the biggest development since the last time I saw you, right? Like you've grown the most since the last time I'd seen you before that. And I think that's still consistent today, right? Like seeing you last night, I think the crowd that you're performing in front of, the fact that you're like, you're the headliner, it's just like it's continuously the trend where every time I see you, it's like the takeaway is that you've seen the most development since the last time I saw you.
Cool. Yeah, because I wanted to ask, kind of you already answered, but I was just curious of what you've noticed and dude, it's crazy to see, that's a long time to watch someone do a craft every once in a while. And that's crazy just to think about that as an outsider.
Right. Yeah. I mean, going from 4-minute sets to 50-minute sets.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That is crazy. And you had a few things that you wanted to bring up about the show. I think we were talking about this last night. And you were like, "Oh, I should save it.
Yeah.
Save it for the pod." But I'm curious.
I think what's become super interesting to me, being having a backseat to the comedy scene via you, is the human behavior elements, or the thoughtfulness that goes into the setting in the room and the opener and all of these things that enable your success or can be like an inhibitor, right? The lighting and all of these things that you don't really think about as a typical, patron, but being that close to it, it's interesting to understand all of the elements that you're thinking about. And so I don't know, I think I mentioned this yesterday. I noticed sitting down there right when the show started, and Anthony goes up, he's opening, and it's people are eating, and it's the lights are shining right down the stage. You got 20 people right on stage just shoving burgers in their face, and it's like, this is kind of like what? How does that impact the experience or the production of it if you've got like people's clanking dishes and it's like
people still ordering,
right? Yeah, like is it typically better to run a show at 9 or 10 because you're not worrying about people like, can I get the salad, not the fries?
Yeah. I think that's why, number one, that's why hosting is the hardest spot.
Yeah.
Not only are you going on with just cold,
right.
People are just eating dinner, and then you just go on stage and go, hey, funny things. People are like, I'm still eating my crab cakes. That's such a hard spot. And usually when you're hosting, it's like the first 5-6 minutes, you're kind of like not doing great.
Right.
And that's a part of it. That's why hosting is like, you're the lower end of the totem pole when you're hosting, just because it's like the hardest spot. But it also makes you strong, because if you can get people to laugh in that first 10 minutes, it's super impressive.
For sure. Right. You're like warming them up.
You're warming them up.
Taking them from 0 to something.
And a deep 0. People are like in their own worlds, and they got to just, okay, well, we're doing this now. And especially with eating dinner. And to answer your question about the like later, but I probably less food on a late show. It's just more drinks. And then not only is the crowd going to be a little more rowdy and wild, but they're still also ordering shit. They're still like, no, we got the hurricane with the pineapple. But they're still doing that shit. That's why the first few minutes is tough. And as a comic, you also can't really acknowledge much of what's happening, because it really takes you. If they're like, hey guys, can you keep it down? Or you got to just plow through shit. Yeah. As if to not draw attention to something that's potentially distracting.
Yep.
But yeah, it's such a weird. The hosting's a weird spot. Featuring is the money spot, which is the middle spot.
Yep.
That 20-minute middle, because the crowd's warmed up.
Right.
There's no pressure on you.
Yep.
And you can just let it fly for 20 minutes, and then you can just be like, goodbye.
Right.
Go eat a burger.
Have
fun, headliner. Have fun doing an hour.
Right.
I'll be back here shoving burgers in my face.
Right. Yeah, because it's like if the night doesn't go well, it kind of comes down to like the headliner not wrapping it up or whatever, not pulling it all together.
There's zero pressure as an opener.
Yep.
And now if I ever open shows, which I am opening for my buddy Michael Blaustein in very soon for it's like I went on tour with him for a long time, and now I'm just popping and doing some shows with him, and it's amazing feeling the lack of pressure. Yeah. It's such a different, like, it's not like I don't care is the wrong phrase, but I kind of am like, I'm just there to work out some jokes and have fun. Like, I have no, if the club doesn't, it doesn't matter. None of this matters. It's more just fun, and I'm here for him. You're really just there for the headliner, But the lack of pressure is great. Oh my God. I did a show. I drove down to Oceanside, which is like a little north of San Diego this week, and I did a show where I headlined a show. I did like 30 minutes, and it's like no one knew who I was really. They just were there for the show. They're local people, and the lack of pressure was beautiful. Low stakes, all new stuff. Sprinkle in some nice jokes, have a good show.
That's usually when you test new stuff.
Hell yeah.
Right.
Hell yeah. Oh, yeah. It's the lack of it's like now I have the perspective of what pressure means. Like that Irvine show, pressure. Yeah. 200 people know who I am. Club. Hey, Will's back.
Right.
How is he gonna be funny? Can he actually headline? All that shit. Walking through the kitchen. Hey, Will, what's up? I'm like, all right, better bring it.
Yep.
Which is why I'm happy it was such a good show, because there's been plenty of times where I'll get off stage and be like, fuck. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Another thing that I was gonna ask you about. So like we were sitting in the green room, and you're pointing out like the people at the front of the stage, right, that you could potentially do crowd work with. And
I talked about this in the last. There's a TV in the green room that shows like just like the view of the stage, so you can see who's on stage, but then like the first kind of row of people. So you can kind of before the show, you can kind of
But yeah, I guess the question was really like, what are you doing with the folks that you're opening with, or that are like part of your act, to avoid an opener or a host like stepping on your ground? Like that's my content.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Great question. You need to communicate that to your openers. You need to communicate like, hey, please don't do crowd work. That's all it really is. Because like you said, if they're talking to all these people, not only are people like, I don't know, it's like
burnt
crowd
out.
work,
like they're
it's like crowd work isn't as exciting when you get up there and do it, because they've already experienced it.
Yep.
And so they're like, oh, this novelty isn't as exciting anymore. And it's like there's no meat left on the bone.
Right.
If they talk to everybody, it's
right.
like we know everyone's story.
Yeah.
So a thing is, I think that the right thing to do, and it's almost like manners when you're an opener, is just don't do crowd work.
Got it.
Or there's times where I've done crowd work opening, but it's for a guy like when I open for Brent, he doesn't talk to the crowd. So I can do a little, he's like, do whatever.
Yep.
If I'm opening for Blaustein, that motherfucker does like 15, 20 minutes of crowd work.
Really?
So I don't touch anything. back in the day when I first started opening for him, I did we agreed because I wanted to try to get a few clips out of a weekend with him.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we agreed the rule was you can talk to one person.
Yep.
You can do one guy, and then when we pass each other, when he goes on stage, I try. What we try to do is I try to let him know. I talk to green shirt guy. He's in the Navy. Blah, blah, blah.
You can exchange all that while you're like, green shirt guy, don't touch it.
Kind of.
Really?
Yeah. Or usually if there's a host, I'll get off stage. The host will be like, "Well, Burkart," and everyone was like, "He was fine." And then we pass, and then I see Blau as we're now that I can go up to him like, "Hey, I talked to that guy, that girl. You see them right there? Yeah, they're good." And he's like, "Got it. Michael Blau's not everybody."
Yep.
And then he's on stage. That's how we tried to do it. Now, but
Is
now
he not watching?
No, you're not watching. You don't really. It's hard. I don't really watch whoever's featuring. I'm in. I pop in. I'm in my own head.
That's interesting because it's like, don't you want to get a feel for the room?
You are. I do. I already do. Between the host and the feature, I already can gauge the room.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm already very aware of what's going on and how the crowd seems. But lately, whenever I'm opening, after going on this tour now or in the midst of this tour, I know how important those crowd work moments are. So now if I'm go with Blaustein again, now I do zero crowd work because I know how valuable it is because I've been through the other perspective. And if I brought, let's say Ashoka opened last night, he featured, if he's doing one or two things of crowd work, I'll be back there like, this motherfucker, stop. Hey, stop.
Right.
So I know what that feeling is like for him. So now I just do zero. I go up there, just do joke. That's all we do. Because we've had moments where we've just jokingly from backstage, yelling at the openers, no, do bits. Don't stop.
Yeah.
Don't talk to them.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, you have to just communicate that. And I've had to, and with buddies, those guys, they know not to, but I have to remember, because when you're headlining, dude, there's a long checklist of shit you have to remember. Certain things that I like, walk up song. I like to have 2 stools on stage because I put
You said too many stools.
Because I was just joking because I was moving shit around. I was like, there was too many, but I like to have my timer and my water on a stool, and then I have a stool to use.
So you do have a time card or something that's
at improvs. They have a clock in the back. Behind the people, there's a clock.
Yeah.
Usually there's not at clubs, so I
was there last night.
Yes, but I have a timer on the stool because I want to know exactly how much time I'm at.
Yep.
So, anyways, that's why I have 2 stools because I want to use one and then one to put stuff on. The point of what I'm saying is there's a checklist of shit you have to think about, and one of the things is make sure to tell the openers don't do crowd work. So if we're in a local city and I'll bring a feature, if there's a local host, I have to make sure, hey, please don't do really.
But if it's the guys that you're going up with often, they already know.
Yes, exactly. That's what I'm saying is I have to remember if it's a local person to tell them.
Yep.
And sometimes I forget, and then I'm watching them fingers crossed.
Yep.
But yeah.
Okay. Close in here, huh?
I know we're touching feet. You can't really tell, but we're touching feetsies right now. Yeah, it was more also just. I mean, any other thoughts from the show?
No. I mean, I thought it went really well.
We didn't talk about it much last night. So
no.
We were saving a lot of
yeah. I think it's cool. I think that the 3 of you guys did great, a good balance.
Yeah.
And yeah.
That was cool to have you there. It's nice to, again, you've seen every possible. This is the first time you actually see me headline a show,
right?
Do a real thing.
Yeah, so. And again, back to the point about you just developing over time. I figure I've probably seen you at every stage along the way, right? Literally doing open mics for 4 minutes and testing out fresh content to holding a spot on a rotation for 8 to 12 minutes to then serving as the host or the opener for some pretty big guys now to being running your own show. It's pretty good.
Pretty crazy.
Yeah.
It's very surreal for me. I still feel hey, when's the headliner getting here?
Yeah.
So we met back in college, and I was gonna I don't know if you thought of any just interesting college stories from back in the day, but we met we were young, we were 18 years old. Now we're 44. No. And we met we were in the same dorm room.
Yep. Not dorm room, dorm.
Not yet, dorm
building.
Dorm building.
Yeah.
It feels wrong. Dorm building.
Hall.
Yeah. It was a hall, I think. Do you remember? I remember the night we met. I remember exactly that night.
Yeah. I think just walking by your room and
I think when the dorm rooms we did an open door type of vibe.
Yeah. Well, people were encouraged to do open door to if you wanted people to just kind of come hang out.
Yeah. Did you like the dorm situation?
Yeah.
It's fun.
I know you probably were
I was okay.
Yeah.
First time I had a roommate who I shared a room with.
Pretty much last time.
Kind of last time I shared a room with someone.
Yeah.
Think about it. Yeah.
For sure. Sharing a room.
Yeah. Good point. be weird if I kept doing it. It's not going well if I have to. Yeah, it wasn't. I don't love the.
Yeah,
because when you share,
I got an upgrade. I went from having 3 roommates to 1.
Yeah, I don't know. It was sharing a room with someone's tough because you share a room with someone, man. You get there all there. You know them too well. Right. You see all their behaviors and things, and it's not really for me. But I remember we were all, because I lived in like a suite where it was a 2-person bathroom in the middle and then 3 people. So it's this kind of 5-person thing. Yeah, I remember you came down and you were like Captain Social. You were like bopping around. Hey, what do we do? Hey. You were kind of like, shaking hands. And I think you just popped in our room and was like, hey guys, what's up? And I don't think you knew any of us.
No.
Or who did you know?
No, I don't think I did.
We just kind of like
there's nobody.
Popped.
I was thinking of the suite on the floor, above or below? Paul, Matt.
Oh.
Because
that was in our dorm. That was in our same dorm?
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
Right.
Yeah,
they were
wow.
1 floor above, maybe.
Wow, I forgot about that. Yeah, these were dudes we lived with the next year.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I didn't have like a reason to be on your floor.
Yeah.
On that side of the building.
Yeah.
But just
saw
there. Your door was open. It was like,
maybe that's why. Yeah. Yeah, we had a nice hang going on. We had a nice little crew, and you popped in, and I remember we started talking, and I remember I liked you. I was like, oh, this guy's like, I like this dude. He's like a fun, cool guy. And I remember you were, I remember we had mentioned someone was like having like a bit of a party like up top or whatever, and it was a girl I had a crush on. And, you knew her.
Okay, so that yes, right. So they were across the hall from Paul, Matt, right?
Yeah.
And that's how I'd met them.
Got it. Yeah, through. Okay,
right.
Yeah. But I remember you mentioned like you knew like this girl. I brought up this girl for some reason. I forget how.
Yep.
And you had mentioned that you knew her, and I was like, oh whoa, and you were like, yeah, I think I can go introduce you, and I was like, let's go.
Yeah.
And we went upstairs and we like hung out with this whole crew, and girls were drinking, and I was like, oh, like this is so cool. And you were like my conduit
liaison.
You were basically like a pimp in a way. Really, ever since then we were like friends.
Yeah.
We started just going. I went to my first college party with you.
Where?
Who knows? It was one of those like who
House
knows
party.
type of places. Because here's the thing about Chicago. We need to give people some context. We went to school in Chicago. In DePaul was the one school that was actually like in Chicago. Like University of Chicago. I still don't know where that fucking place is.
Yep.
Deep on one of the lines. It is deep out in the city. Northwestern suburbs. Nowhere near the city.
Yeah. UIC, I guess, is the only,
which is like not. I don't even know where
it's
that
like
was.
Greek town.
Yeah.
So downtown, but.
And I mean, Mike knows Chicago too. It's like that. DePaul was the only school because it was like Lincoln Park and the Loop,
right?
Were the
and it was you were in the neighborhood you kind of want to be living in.
It was like the best neighborhood.
20-year-old.
You're so right. And I think we joked about, because the way it worked is it was not like a normal college campus. Like if you went to school at maybe like a University of Wisconsin or like Washington, it's like the city's like built around this campus,
right?
Like a small town, like wherever. Let's say like I don't know, like Alabama's probably a better example. I feel like that whole state like revolves around that one, the college, the college football, that town is that place. But our campus was just the city of Chicago. Yeah. There was no real camp. There was a campus, but it was just within a neighborhood of Chicago. Right. And so what we kind of joked about when we lived there is like, you felt like you were just living in Chicago and went to school sometimes. For sure. That's what it felt like. We went, like you took the public train and bus to class. Yeah. Right. I mean, you were more often like experiencing the city than you were experiencing the school. Exactly. Right? Yes. Which I think was great because it's at least for me, and I don't know if you feel this way, coming from like growing up in the nice safe suburbs, going to like a city, it like kind of kicks your ass and gives you a reality check to be like, oh wow. It also offers like an environment that's somewhat coddling you, or like it's supportive. It's like, you're not like literally being thrown out into an environment where you don't know anybody or whatever. You have a campus to lean on. Right. You have like a school to attend and, things to do. Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's what's so nice. There's so much to do, which is what, I mean, I remember my first, I think you probably know that I fell on the train my first day. Just legit fell. It was on the L Chicago train. Holding on, pretty rickety train, and you're right about that. I'm never gonna touch a fucking. I'll rather fall than hold on to the pole. Yeah. The pole is crazy. Yeah, if people are just holding on to that and then eat a fucking bagel, no, it's like crazy. Yeah, but that's also my OCD coming out. But I remember the first day I was just on the train and I was trying to do the like surf thing or whatever. And just in the first, immediately we left, I was like, "What?" Immediately fell. Like day one, that little backpack on, 18, time to go to class. Boom! Like falling, the dirty floor. Businessmen were looking at me like this fucking idiot.
So you'd rather fall than hold on to the pole?
Arguably worse because the floor is not great either.
Yeah.
There's been some, you see some questionable people taking
for sure.
the train. I hate traffic. I don't miss trains. Dicey.
Yeah.
We saw some dicey characters on there.
For sure.
It's not great. And you're just with them.
Right.
For however long. But that's what was nice about Chicago. It was kind of nice for me to feel like like unsafe at times. That's good. I needed that. Because where I grew up was very safe and cushy. And this was like, you can get on the L and just see a homeless guy with his cock out just staring at you like, "What's up, boy?" And that's you just got to be like, all right, let me deal with this situation now. Let me grow up a little bit,
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely saw some, I don't know, troubling things.
We've seen some troubling things, but like I said, like going to the first college party was just like at someone's apartment in Chicago. That's largely what the parties were. We didn't have like frat houses. We didn't have, I don't even know where people go to college parties nowadays, but they were just like random apartments in the city. And our apartment turned into one of the biggest party spots.
Well, yeah, I think we were like inspired by the fact that there wasn't, well, first of all, that we couldn't be, we weren't of age, so we couldn't go to the bar
until we probably got fake IDs.
Yeah,
that
but
that was like later. That was like sophomore, junior year,
right?
Junior,
and it just was expensive.
Yeah,
it was like for whatever reason not the move.
Yeah.
But what was the move was like making money on a house party.
Well, let's talk about that because this freshman year after that, we developed these friendships, and then we all moved into an apartment together. There was 5 of us, 5 dudes in this apartment. Really dope spot in a great neighborhood in Lakeview. But for whatever reason, we decided to like not only throw parties, but like throw like for real, big parties,
like concerts.
Kind of like at one point we threw a little bit of a concert. And this is just a regular apartment. We weren't in like a house with like a yard. It was like a building to build next to it. Was just a nice suburban block that we threw.
There was a lot of space though. Like
it was a big spot.
We could host quite a lot of people there.
And there were.
Yeah.
And it got to the point where we were even charging people at the door to come into the party. And the amount of booze we provided was not a lot.
No.
We probably got like, I don't know, 2 30 racks of beer and charged everyone like $5 at the door. And I remember the first few, like, bro, we were like, at the end of the night, we had like this stack of money.
Yeah.
Bro, like I still say sophomore year of college was arguably one of the best years of my life.
Yeah.
I don't know if you'd agree, but
for sure.
It was just such an amazing, those parties were so fun, and we got to just create this whole environment.
Yeah.
And just 5 dumbasses. We were just laughing, having drinking. It was just, it's like we did college exactly how we should have.
Yeah.
That's how I feel.
I think so.
What do you remember from that time, from some of those? It got a little wild.
Yeah. There were like some not so great results of having, like 300 strangers in your house.
Not great.
I'm pretty sure like every time we had an event, some of my shit was stolen.
Do you remember it was like when that was stolen?
Yeah. Like
we closed our doors and stuff, but it's like,
for some reason, people just loved going in that room downstairs, like my room, and just slurping up my shit.
Do you remember anything that they took?
The G-Shocks. Remember I had like all those watches, and somebody just ganked like 6 watches.
Oof. Tough loss.
Yeah.
That's a tough loss.
Then the camera. Remember, because I've been taking photos all night with my camera, DSLR.
Right.
And I had like, buried it somewhere downstairs in the basement, and somebody, I don't know, found it and scooped.
Oof. Tough.
But
it's an opportunity cost for parties that's like arguably not worth it.
Right.
We're making money, but it's also like, how much do we each make? $40,
Yeah. I think it was more so just like the novelty of what we were doing at 19 years old. Yeah. Like hosting this event, this like production, having a Twitter account. Right.
That's the thing, is we called it, so the address, well, I don't want to say the full address, but it was 3046, then the street name. And well, fuck it, who cares? We can say the name. It was Clifton Ave. 3046 North Clifton was the Ave. And we called it Club 3046.
Yeah.
And we had a Twitter account. We really took it seriously, to the point that people knew. And also, here's the thing, is we're making it sound like we were the fucking guys on campus. We weren't rolling around hey, Steve, Will.
Right.
We were just like kind of like quietly.
Yeah.
People knew what Club 3046 was. So much to the point that even the school started to catch wind of it. Do you remember that?
No.
It was so every year DePaul hosted a big concert. It's called Fest.
Yep.
We had Childish Gambino, we had Lupe Fiasco, we had Diplo, and one other one I don't remember. But it was this
Big Sean.
Big Sean, yeah.
That was the worst one.
What was the best one? I think
Lupe.
Lupe was great.
It was our freshman year, right?
I don't remember.
Yeah, I think Lupe was freshman.
I think Childish Gambino was probably my favorite though. That was the last year, I think.
Yeah.
Because I was a pretty big fan of
Right.
him and still am.
Right.
That was dope. Great acts, honestly.
Yeah, I think the reason Lupe was so great was we were freshmen. It was the first time we were doing this,
Yeah.
right? It just was like a wild time, like rowdy crowd.
Yep. But the reason I bring up that is because we were going to do an after party of Fest at our place.
Oh,
and
yeah.
We had
and
some sort of
responded. They're like, no. I think what happened
remember?
is Paul was like,
Paul was
hey,
one of our roommates.
Yep. And he was like, he tweeted at DePaul. And he's like, hey, you know, the after party's at 3046, $5 a cup, whatever.
Yeah.
And DePaul's like, this is not like condoned by the university.
No,
like,
they're not into this. This is
Right.
not an actual sanctioned after party.
No.
We just are fucking around.
Yeah.
And they like caught wind of it.
Yeah.
And were like, I think we had knew someone who was a part of the like community boards for the school or something. We're like in charge of the
Maybe.
events.
Yep.
And they like knew, like, hey, do you guys know? In their own meetings, they were like, do you guys know about this after party at like Club 3046? We're just 3 idiots, like
Yeah.
5 idiots, just
Right.
created this whole thing. The fact that they knew who we were, I was like, the whole thing was worth it.
Right.
That was so cool to me. And the police knew who we were also.
The neighbor.
And the
knew-
neighbors.
Yeah.
Not great. I feel a little bad for the neighbors.
Yeah, that lady we put her through the ringer.
Yeah, it wasn't great. But
But
I
she was
don't
also kind of a...
I don't like regret it, but it is tough to think about. Like, think about nowadays if you live next to this just regular apartment in a nice neighborhood, and these people are throwing ragers.
Yeah.
The whole block is fucked up. I
Right.
mean, it was intense. So I feel kind of bad, but also I don't feel that bad.
Yeah, I don't think there was anything like that damaging or problematic.
Yeah, it's like people were like hanging from trees.
Right.
You know.
It was just loud. Yeah, it was
just
loud every other weekend.
Yeah.
You know, on a Saturday night.
And the cops probably came handful of times.
3 times, 4
Four
times.
times, yeah. And they definitely were like starting to catch wind of what we were doing.
Yeah.
They would threaten us pretty
Yep.
nicely. I don't know what they threatened. They were like,
I don't really remember ever having an encounter with any of the police.
they definitely were inside at one point.
Yeah.
Yeah, they definitely shut it down. But I think there was maybe 1 or 2 times where like,
Yeah.
nothing really ever.
No.
Nothing really ever came of it. No regrets.
No.
We both had our like degenerate phase. I'd say yours was, you had some nice degenerate activity where you were just boozing
Yeah.
and doing some wild stuff. Because you're the type of dude when we would party is that you were assumed like everyone was friends with you, even strangers. Like we'd walk by and you'd be like, people eating pizza, and I'd be like, hey, let me get a bite of that, just to random people. Or like we're on the train, some guy's like playing a saxophone, you're like, hey, let me get a blow, let me get a puff of that. Like just regular people, and
Yeah.
I'm just with like, and we're all with you, like, oh, bro,
Right.
what are you gonna get us into? You had this fuck it attitude.
Yeah.
Where do you think that like came from though? Because it was to the point that I can't believe you didn't get hit. I still can't believe that once one person was like, you know what I mean?
Well, I think when you see somebody eating a pizza, you know if they're the type of person that's either going to punch you for asking or not punch you for asking.
I don't know, dude.
And, you know, most people aren't going to give you a bite of their pie, but...
Right. You remember a guy who peed in the stairwell?
Oh,
staircase?
yeah.
We had a few people who peed in the corner in like a cup. Had that maybe happen a few times.
Yeah.
Oh, I just remember something too. And I remember a guy peed he was walking around with a box, the empty box of beer on his head.
Oh, yeah. Dude, I can remember this. I probably have a video of this dude.
And he went around like the stairs up to our upstairs neighbors. He like peed in
their stairwell.
In their stairwell. Mm-hmm. That was the most mad I think I got at I was like legit.
Yeah.
I remember like
Big
grabbed,
dude too.
Big guy. The biggest
right.
guy there.
Yeah.
Which is like, of course, what are we gonna be
Right.
like, hey, you know.
Yep.
So I remember I grabbed a bunch of you guys. We're like,
Man,
yo,
yeah, I
let's
forget.
go find this guy, and we like confronted him.
Yeah, I
and
remember I
shit.
like took him out in the street and I like started recording him. And I was just like, you know, what are you doing? And he just, I'm out of my mind. He's out of his mind.
We're all just
like
a mess. Speaking of a mess, do you remember when that guy like smacked that kid in the face and he was like, bleeding all over the bathroom? So we had a buddy. I was standing by the door. It was this kid named Ozzy. I was standing by the door, and this dude I know named Ozzy, who I went to class with, he was walking out of the door. He said, "Hey," I remember this so clearly. He said, "Hey, some kid touched my girl's ass, so I hit him in the face, and he's bleeding in your bathroom. I'll see you later, man." We're like, okay. And sure enough, I go in the bathroom. This poor kid is like bleeding out of his nose. They found paper towels and they're shoving paper towels in the toilet, breaking the toilet. No one's like, hey, don't do that. Everyone's like, oh, and I'm like, guys, this is my toilet. Stop. Don't flush that. Kid's bleeding. And it was also some nice kid who like didn't do anything. I think he probably like brushed up against this girl's ass. And he was like, you mother, didn't even give him a chance, just clocked him. This like nice, sweet kid was just gushing blood in our bathroom, fucking up our toilet. I was more upset about the toilet, to be honest. But I was like, I had to like control the situation and stuff. But yeah, some of that stuff, that was where I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Not great. It got to the point where people were like, we were joking that people were taking so much stuff and doing so many weird things that at one point they were going to walk out with like my retainer in their mouth, like, hey, I got his retainer. That's how wild it started to get. I was like, oh boy, this is, I'm starting to get worried.
Yeah, I mean, that was just like the thing to do as a 20-year-old or a 19-year-old, just like show up to a party and cause havoc.
Oh man, we did the same thing.
For
we
sure.
Would always, dude, I remember we would always go to parties and well, here's what's fucked up is we would try to take stuff.
For sure.
But we took stuff that was funny.
Like that gallon of milk.
That's exactly what I was thinking about.
Hilarious.
What the hell was that?
So I don't know. Again, we just like it was hilarious to just steal something like trivial.
Yeah. Because we're not doing like speakers or that's
right.
we're good dudes. We're not doing that.
But it was like three of us. One person was like turning off the lights to make sure that like nobody could. The lights were on. Somebody was on the far side of the kitchen because it's the kitchen's filled with people, and
it's like Ocean's 11.
Yeah, more or less. And then the other thing we accounted for was that when you open the fridge, the light's going to go on. So somebody was going to like push the little button that turns the light off on the fridge.
Oh, man.
So we had this like lockdown. And then there was like somebody standing outside of the window. And we opened the window and we like dropped the jug out.
Also, a gallon. It was more. We didn't even want the milk. It was more the story of like it was like the heist.
Yeah.
Like, can we get away with this gallon of milk? So funny. I remember, dude, what else did we take anything else? We didn't do much.
No.
Petty thieves.
Yeah.
We didn't do a lot. But, oh man, yeah.
Booze, I guess, like.
Well, that was the whole thing of when the whole thing that happened at Forza with Matt and I. We got kicked out of Forza. Remember that?
Forza.
That bar.
Sounds super. I haven't heard that name.
I know. Well, that's when people ask me like, what's the craziest shit you've done? I usually tell them that story about when we got kicked out of the bar and got like threatened to be beaten up and stuff.
I sort of remember this, but
basically we were at this bar that it was one of the few bars that let you in with your real ID. They were like kind of sketchy and kind of a nice place.
Let you in with your real ID?
Yeah,
what do you mean?
They would they'd be like, okay,
yeah.
And so we went in. It was Matt and I. This was another one of our roommates, and we were like pretty drunk at this point, and we saw a door open with stairs leading down, and we were like, huh. Let's see what's down there. Because we were always trying to get up to some shit. We were like, oh, let's see what's down there. Maybe it's another room. Who knows what's down there? We walked down the stairs, and it's their entire alcohol stash. And we were like, oh. And now our gallon of milk energy is the same thing. We're like, ooh, let's see if we can just take a bottle just to be able to pull it off. We weren't even like, ooh, free bottle of whiskey. We didn't give a fuck. It was more like, can we pull off this?
I do remember this. Yeah.
And so we were like, and also in Chicago, what's hard to go to parties is that you go, it's so fucking cold. You go there with these big ass, because you walk there and it's no degrees.
Right.
There's no degrees left, right? It's 0 degrees. And you're walking these big ass coats and you get to like a slammed college party.
Yeah, it's like
you're
85 degrees inside.
Oh, it's like that's what I hated about the Midwest. It was so like everything's too hot, too cold at all times. People stealing your jacket, whole thing.
Yep.
And so our buddy Matt had this giant like trench coat thing. And he was like, put the bottle in his trench coat. And we were like, oh, this is so funny. And we turn around and the manager of the bar is just watching us. And he's like, you guys done? All right, let's go upstairs. And we're like, oh, we thought this was the bathroom. I mean, really trying to, we didn't even know as he's how is this? Really like treating him, he's like he's an idiot. And so we go upstairs and we're like, it's, sorry, we didn't mean to. And this guy's like, points at all the biggest dudes at the bar. He's like, hey, Jeremy, Scott, let's go. And takes both of us by our like collars and like drags us through the bar. And we're like, hey, so it's funny. Yeah. We got milk. It's like trying to be funny. And we like go outside and they're like shoving us against the car, like legit threatening us. At one point, some dude was like, who do you like? They had to hold the manager back from beating us up. They had to hold, he was like, you motherfucker, like really motherfucking us. And we were just like, we're kidding. We're joking. We're just goofing around. He was like, last time someone did this to us, we put them in the hospital. You know, we were like, Jesus. And they're shoving us against a car. And at one point, one of the guys was like, who do you work for? I was like, what is this, Mission Impossible? Look at me. I'm wearing cargo shorts and Sperry's on a fucking Thursday. What are you doing? Also, you let me in with my real ID.
Yeah.
Get it together.
Right. Where was that place?
It was in like, I don't know, who knows?
Like Lincoln Park, though.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was one of those. You know this place.
Yeah, I'd been. I can't think of where it was.
But they were like legit. It was pretty scary because they were like, we were going to get beat up. And I've never been in a fight before. And so I was like kind of scared. But they ended up, they took our wallets too. They had our wallets. I was like, oh, fuck, I need that. You know, that's like one of the top 3 most important things I need.
You just never got back.
No, so they ended up letting us go without doing anything. I think they were just really trying to scare us.
Yep.
And they kept our IDs.
Like your real
my real ID, which is funny because I'm like, hey guys, you fucked up.
Yeah.
You let me with my real ID.
Right.
And so they kept our IDs, and then they basically told us like, fuck off, and we left.
Yeah.
Which is very exciting because we're like, nothing happened.
Right.
Great. And they had IDs. The next day, I remember I got a Facebook message, and a guy messaged me and said, hey, I'm so-and-so. I'm the manager at Forza. I understand what happened last night. I have your ID if you want to come back and grab it.
Were you just like, nah?
I was like, I'll go. Because I wanted my ID.
Yeah.
And also I was like, yeah, it'd be kind of nice to just like say sorry.
Right.
And I remember, and Matt didn't want to go.
I do remember this. Yeah,
he was like, no way. Going
Right.
back to that scene of the crime? Fuck that. Who knows what we're walking into?
Right.
And I was like, I don't know why I went.
I need my ID.
I need my ID. Probably because I was too lazy to like go to the DMV and get a new one. So I was like, I'll go. And I went.
Your ass beat.
Who knows what's gonna? I don't know what I was walking into, but I walked in and it was like
the same guy.
It was the manager who wasn't there at that time, and then one of the main guys who really did not like me was there. So I was talking to the manager, who's this young, super chill dude, and I just told him what happened. I was like, yeah, man, we were just drunk, just trying to be silly. We didn't mean to do anything, you know. We didn't end up stealing. We gave the bottle back. We weren't like actually stole.
Right.
And I think but the whole time
Gave the bottle back. Is it?
I know we didn't really.
Nice way to put it.
Get it?
Yeah. Right.
But they, I remember when I was talking to the manager of the bar, like one of the big bouncer dudes was just like staring at me the whole time. Like he was still pissed about it.
Yeah.
He was definitely not like, fuck this kid, you know. But the manager was mad cool, and then he was like, hey, you like tequila? And I was like, yeah. We tried to steal some, and he said, let's do a shot.
Really?
And we did a shot of tequila, and then I left with my ID.
That's a strange outcome.
I know. You wouldn't have expected it. I think it was
a free shot of tequila.
I think I just
Thanks for trying to steal it.
Yeah, exactly. You're a bad thief. Here's some tequila. I think it was more like I took accountability for what I did. I was like, sorry guys, I don't know. We were just drunk college kids.
Yeah.
Didn't mean to cause the whole thing. I don't work for anyone. I'm not a secret agent.
Right.
The who do you work for was such a funny question. Who do you work for? I'm like, what do you think is happening right now? It's like, this is the most exciting thing you've been through in a year and a half.
Yeah, I mean, I would guess the bouncers, they're probably not that much older than we were at the time.
I think I'm sure they just felt disrespected.
They
think they can walk in here and but that was really the worst. That was like the worst thing I think I got into in college. Like I was like, oof, that was not great.
Right, but it was probably inspired by all of the like stupid shit we were doing at house parties or whatever, where the stakes were lower.
Exactly.
I mean,
pretty low stakes.
Yeah.
I remember do you remember what we did? Remember all we did freshman year was drink 40s.
Oh yeah.
That's all we drank. First year we would go to 7-Eleven and just sneak them into the dorm. You get these fat. 40 was like so obnoxious.
Rubby. What were the names? Like what were some of the Cobra? Right.
King Cobra.
Yeah.
There was Mickey. I think Mickey. I don't know if we got Mickey's.
Mickey's that was like a delicacy.
Mickey's like, oh
yeah, right.
Well,
spent $6 on that.
Let me chase it with a shot of milk.
Right.
Yeah, it was. Well, Steel Reserve was the
but maybe that was like we were better than Steel Reserve, but Cobra was acceptable. But there's another glass one that we'd always get.
Old England. I don't even think we got that. No. It was like some weird.
There's some other beat.
Not great.
Yeah, ratchet.
Well, I remember we used to get the tall. I would get the tall boys of Steel Reserve. And that is the most garbage, brutal drink. It's like a really strong beer, but like not in like a nice way. It's just.
I remember one time. So you picked up a 6-pack of Shock Top, and we were like, "Oh, we are living." you gave me one. You're like, "Here, have a Shock Top."
Hey, you know what? The least we can. At least we get a Shock Top.
And I was like,
"Whoa, are you sure?
This guy's my real buddy."
Dude, thanks for coming on and hanging, talking college stories. And it was cool to have you there last night, to have you kind of witness the culmination of a lot of work, and also you'll continue to see it. I ain't stopping now.
Cool.
So thanks Steve for being here.
Yeah.
Thanks Mike for producing, and we'll be back next week, and that's it. That's the podcast.